Hello everyone and welcome to Mythoscope, a channel that takes a look at some of our world's mythologies, comparing and contrasting their different aspects and highlighting some of their wackier and weirder sides. In this, our first ever episode, we're going to take a look at the creation myths of ancient Egyptian mythology. I should say this beforehand, I'm in no way an expert in these topics, I'm just a guy who kind of finds it interesting and thought, hey, let's make a YouTube channel about it. What's the worst that could happen? You know, aside from being swarmed by people for the way I butcher pronunciations of the names and places. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So to keep this video brief, I'll just be discussing how Egyptian mythology understands how the earth and humanity was created. That should be simple enough, right? Well, not so much. You see, whilst we look at mythologies today as, well, myth and legend, these are all play a part into what was once a really large religion. I mean, come on, is a man with a bird head any crazier than a virgin getting pregnant? Anyway, like most religions, there are different cultural sects around Egypt, such as in Thebes and Memphis. That's Memphis, Egypt, not Memphis, Tennessee, in case I needed to clarify that for you. Which is probably a good thing for Elvis, because if they weighed his heart to go to the afterlife, it would probably have broken the scale. I'm already getting sidetracked here, so let's try and refocus. So in these different cultural sects, they would hold different gods in higher esteem, and have different interpretations of the same myths, such as how the sun was made, which can vary wildly depending on the myth. More on that later. Mixing the fact that we're working from fragmentary texts from thousands of years ago, and you can kind of see why this is harder than it first appears, but let's give it a go. The ancient Egyptians represented the pre-creation universe as an infinite body of dark water. They defined its different aspects as male and female couples, each pair representing a different part of it, with the men often portrayed as frogs and the women as snakes. Why, you ask? I have no idea. These 8 are known as the Ogdoad, and are the 8 primeval gods of Egyptian myth. We have Nun and Nonet, which represent the limitless water, Ha and Horhet, which represents its infinite expanse, how do I pronounce this? Cup. Will Smith, Cook and Corket, which represent the darkness, and finally Amun and Amunet, which represent its hiddenness. It is said that these 8 would form the first mound of Earth, and would go on to create an egg from which the sun god would hatch. In other myths though, this egg was said to be laid by, wait for it, a goose called the Great Honker. That's Honker, no S. Sorry to disappoint you. Yet in another myth, the Ogdoad is said to have made a lotus flower in the waters of Nun, and the sun would form from that. One of the Ogdoad, Amun, gained a particularly large following from one of the cultural sects we mentioned earlier, becoming a central figure to a lot of their myths to the point he would often be referred to as King of the Gods. He also had another title though, which is one I mentioned earlier. That's right, Amun is the goose called the Great Honker, a title that refers to the bird breaking the void of silence with its, well, you guessed it, just don't touch his egg, he bites. Rather than just laying the egg, however, it is stated that he knit his fluid together with his body to bring about his egg in isolation. Whatever the hell that's meant to mean. As well as being depicted as a frog and a goose, he's also shown as a man with blue skin. Now another important god to highlight is one not actually from the Ogdoad. Like Amun, he gained a particularly large following from a cultural sect, and his name is... Christ, I really should have looked at into how to pronounce these. Ptah? Tar? Is the P silent? Anyway, old Pitterbread here is the god in arts and crafts. From Michelangelo's Davids to your macaroni pictures as a kid, he's the one that gave the inspiration for it to be made. And that includes all the degenerate images of Rule 34. He's often referred to as the divine sculptor, and represents the power of the creative mind. It's time for our fun fact of the day. Hu and Sia are said to have come into being from the drops of blood that came from the sun god's phallus. Speaking from personal experience though, if this happens to you, then you probably best seek a doctor. Wait, did you just say you've bled out your And that's the end of the fun fact for the day. Now if you excuse me, I have a doctor's appointment. Right, back on topic. I'm sure you're confused since these differing views on creation seem to completely contradict each other. Well, some scholars have argued that the heart and tongue mentioned earlier, that were said to have spoken everything into existence, actually belonged to Amun. Ptah's role in creation being more along the lines of the inspirational idea behind it. Still confused? Well, the best way I've seen this explained is to think of a moon as the commissioner of a statue to be built, with Ptah serving as the sculptor. But that leaves us with the question of what served as the raw materials for this statue. Well, that leads us to our next god. Atum, referred to as the finisher, existed within the waters of Nun as a seed. The seed began a conversation with the waters about how he could bring himself into existence. How exactly a seed and water have a conversation, well, your guess is as good as mine. Two gods played a major role in bringing Atum into being. Shu, who represented life, and Tefnut, who represented Mat, which is the idea of balance between order and chaos. These two existed within Atum and would bring him to life. Shu began Atum's heartbeat, yet he remained unconscious until Tefnut breathed life into him, allowing him to become fully conscious, and then giving him the ability to separate himself from Nun, thus becoming the remainder, the first significant matter in the universe. Shu would begin to expand, much like a balloon, thus making Atum expand. The matter of Atum would evolve and finally become the sky and land. Earth was finally made. As for how Shu and Tefnut would become independent of Atum, there are varying myths with different views. Most seem to agree that they were expelled from his body as a fluid, with some accounts saying it was a sneeze or by spitting, but my favourite, and the one I'll be going with, is that they were expelled by masturbation. And that's right, people, there's no need to be ashamed, gods do it too. So that's how the earth was made according to ancient Egyptian myth. But what about humanity? Well, to know about that, we must continue to follow Atum, Shu and Tefnut. Atum would send his eye, which was the sun, to... Wait, I thought the sun was Amun's goose egg or whatever. Well, yeah, but... well, it... no, I don't know, man. This stuff makes as much sense to me as quantum physics. So, why are you making an informational video about it on YouTube? You're awful at it. So, the Eye of Atum, which is the sun, was sent to follow Shu and Tefnut to watch over them as they wandered, and it is this movement that represents the rise and setting of the sun. However, upon their return, the Eye of Atum was enraged to see she had been replaced by a new solar eye. In that rage, she began to cry, and from those tears that fell came humanity. Again, there are varying myths as to the creation of humanity, but it seems that most agree that it is from tears. The origins of the gods that it came from, though, seems to differ. There are a lot of interesting things about Egyptian mythology, but what stands out most to me is how a few things kind of line up with our modern scientific understanding of the universe. Bear with me for a second here. Nun, this endless expanse of dark water, is very reminiscent of space as our current understanding of it is. The Great Honker, as stupid as a title as it is, denotes the first sound of the universe. Maybe the Big Bang was more of a big... But why is this so? How could an ancient civilization have such an insight to the universe? The answer is clear, my friends. Aliens. That's right, aliens. Amun is often depicted as a man with blue skin. Could he have perhaps been an alien? Is this all extraterrestrial knowledge that has been handed down to the Egyptians? No, that's stupid. Pretty cool though. I was going to end the video here, but I'm sure like me, a lot of you have been watching the new Disney Plus Marvel series Moon Knight. Since this is an Egyptian mythology video, I figured we should take a look at some of the gods from the show and see how they compare and how accurate they are in their depictions. Let's start with the lunar god behind the titular character, Khonshu. His name means traveller, referencing the moon's journey in the sky, as well as the idea that Khonshu would watch over those travelling during the night as a protective deity. This is why he had titles such as Pathfinder and Defender, which is perhaps why he takes a role as a sort of god of vengeance in the show, protecting innocent people from criminals in the night. In the show, Khonshu is shown as a humanoid figure, with a large bird skull forehead and clothing akin to the wrappings of a mummy. This design sort of blends different depictions of the moon god. He is usually shown as a mummy, but with much more human-like, yet with green skin. but other depictions also gave Khonshu the head of an eagle or falcon, hence the sassy bird-brained god of the series. It is said that when Khonshu would make the crescent moon shine, women would conceive. I doubt they'll bring this aspect into the show, as much as we'd all like to see Oscar Isaac getting jiggy with it. Now to the villain god of the series, Ammit. Unlike most of the humanoid gods of Egyptian myth, Ammit is shown as a sort of chimera, depicted with the head of a crocodile, the front legs of a lion, and the back legs of a hippo. Basically, parts of the most dangerous animals familiar to the Egyptians. Ammit would eat the hearts of those that were weighed and deemed unworthy to go to the afterlife. And whilst we haven't seen what she'll look like in the show, I sure hope they don't shy away from the monstrosity of this deity. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I wanted to give a special thanks to Marco Rodriguez for supplying the background music for this video. Links to his page will be found in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more. Until next time.